You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with David Dobbins.
Hey,
Every time I say David Dobbins, I want to say something like Dobby or something from Harry Potter for some reason.
I've been called worse. I've been called everything from Double D, Dauber, Dobbins, any spinoff you can think of. People call me that. It's all good.
You're the Dobler theory.
Yes, sir.
Well, now we got to think of something for the Dobler theory, so it's got to be badass, right?
That's it, man. That is it. Well, our donuts are pretty badass. We do some pretty crazy things that are not really all that traditional, but yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience. We started a couple years back. It just kind of came out of my mind as a thought, and then my wife got tired of hearing me talk about these crazy ideas and said, "Why don't you just start making them?" And then so we kind of we threw some stuff together, kind of created some basic fundamental staple menu items, and then kind of took it from there. And it's been pretty cool.
So now you own just a cart that you kind of push around and give like people desserts like donuts specifically, or do you go out of that range a little bit?
Yeah, so we started out as a pop-up tent, and so we do events primarily donuts, but we've come up with some stuff that are still in the donut genre, like a mac and cheese donut. So it's only a donut in the sense that the shape of it is round and has a hole in the middle, but there's nothing sweet or dessert about it. It's all cheese and macaroni, and we sell it with a sriracha mayo dipping sauce, or so that's definitely a savory type item. But we do try to focus on just donuts in general. And so we just any type of we go for like a plated dessert on top of a donut is kind of our shtick that we use. And so there's really no rules to it other than it's a donut on the bottom, and then everything else kind of comes from that.
Now, all right. So when we talk about donuts, the combinations and the crazy ideas that you have, what makes you so different? Like, besides just maybe doing a mac and cheese donut, but is it just because you're able to create what people want?
Yeah, so we pretty much try to play off the fact of everybody's got a kid inside of them. So we kind of go with what are some of the dessert or sweet ideas, some of the things that we used to like and enjoy when we were kids. So we do something as simple as like a peanut butter and jelly donut. We do some stuff like a cookies and cream, which is one of our best sellers. And then something a little more exotic like a s'mores donut, which has multiple layers and components. And
Yeah, I made a
you know,
s'mores donut with donut guy. I also tossed out a couple ideas too, but I get so many crazy combinations. I'm a very like clean eater, so when it comes to like cravings, I got that inner fat kid that just walks by. Like if you just took a bag of Doritos and dumped that on top of the cake, it would be amazing.
that sounds like a great idea, actually. Something I've heard of people doing things with like flaming hot Cheetos and grinding those things up, and that would be a really cool idea for a savory, something like a powder to put on top of maybe some Korean fried chicken, or
Bro, if
something
you
like
want to
that would be
hear my ideas,
awesome.
dude, I can point
I
you to
do, I
I
do.
can point you to the podcast episode if you honestly think you could create them. But I had this one idea for a General So's donut. Apparently, it's
Oh,
already been done, but not in the
really?
way I envisioned it. The way I
That is.
envisioned it was the full donut was a glaze of that General So sauce. And then you took
Oh,
the freaking like the little what do you call it? What's that soup you always get?
the wonton soup
Yes, the
or
wonton
the?
soup, those little
Yep.
wonton chips they have.
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
those, crush them all up into a bowl, and use it as like a chip powder, and then sprinkle it on top of the donut.
That's an amazing idea. We do something like that, something along those lines anyway. We do one called the Holy Cannoli. So we basically deconstruct the cannoli. So we start out again with our base light and fluffy donut. We actually make all our donuts hot and fresh to order. So when somebody comes and gets one, the donut comes right out of the fryer, piping hot, and then we kind of build it up from there. So the Holy Cannoli has we fill it like we cut the hole out, and then we fill that hole in with filling. So you get a lot of times you get a donut from some place, there's like very little filling inside, so you're left with mostly dough. So we make sure that we don't have that problem. So we fill that middle with a nice cold cannoli cream, and then we put some chocolate chips on top of that. We add some crushed up cannoli shells, the shell from the cookie, and then we add some powdered sugar on top of that. So we kind of use that concept. We kind of build them all up the same type of way, hot donut filling, and then we kind of layer up some other stuff on top, some crunch or some hot and cold textures. We try to play around with textures, flavors, temperatures, and that kind of thing.
Well, it's like for so long we've been eating the same classic donuts. I mean, when I was a kid, I think we got the donut box or whatever. There was always like someone that wanted the chocolate, someone that wanted the vanilla, someone that wanted the glaze, and then there was the fucking brown sugar that like nobody wanted to touch, or like the normal one that nobody wanted to touch.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
like when I was a kid, it was chocolate donuts. I remember my dad going to 7-Eleven, grabbing one of those bags of chocolate donuts, and here's the donuts, the mini donuts. There's your breakfast for school or something. And as I got
Sure.
older, my taste changed. I ended up trying like I guess a powdered donut one day. I was like, wow, this is dry as shit, but it's good.
Yeah.
And then like a glaze was just revolutionary. I got stuck on those, but I mean, they've been around the basic stuff, and then they ended up moving up where they started putting custards and stuff in them, like a nice Boston cream or
Sure.
something with that like gush flavor where it's like biting into a gusher. What have you kind of favored as a kid, or like a best memory that you have with a donut?
So for me, growing up, I came from a large family. So we were a blue collar family. We didn't have a lot of, as many of us grew up in the 70s, we didn't have a lot of disposable income. So
You were
for us to get
stabbing
a
people
treat,
for food. I got it.
yeah, something like that. It was, the bread ration lines were down the street, and you only got gas on every other day. Yeah, it was
You
crazy.
want that donut? You better take this elbow.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like the donut was like the special treat that you got. So, we pretty much had back then, like you said, I remember there was a place called Mickey's Donuts in the New Jersey area, and they sold the traditional Boston cream, the jelly donut, those types of donuts. I still enjoy, frankly, just a plain cake donut. I'll get one every now and again from Dunkin' Donuts, or, some seasonal stuff like the apple cider ones you get at the farmers markets and all that in the fall.
Are you a fan of the sprinkles on the donuts?
Sure. So that we do we have a brand new donut that we just came out with called the birthday cake donut. So we fill it with vanilla filling, and then we put whipped cream and crushed up golden Oreo cookies on it, and then a pile of rainbow sprinkles on top. So I think, not only do we try to do things where we add flavors and textures and contrast, but color is a big part of what we try to do. We try to create
Beautiful looking
donut.
items.
Yeah, because we all eat with our eyes. So the other really innovative thing that we do, we use the old carnival trick. So when we set up our tent at an event, or even if we're doing a wedding or a birthday party or anything like that, we'll set up a table in the front of our stand and make a demo of each donut that we're making that day, and kind of have them sitting on the table. And then the customers that walk by, whether they want one or not, and initially a lot of times they just can't resist seeing something that, again, we eat with our eyes, so they see these works of art, and then they can't resist.
Well, it's got to look appetizing, but honestly, it's crazy because when you get a box of donuts from like a not Baskin Robbins, a Dunkin' Donuts, or I don't even know, whatever you want to say, like a nice 7-Eleven one if you want. They have some good ones
Sure.
sometimes,
Sure.
but when they get it in the little bag and then you drive home or you take it to the office or something, it's all fucked up in the box. I mean, there's half the shit's on the top of the box and the other half, like the donut looks awful,
Sure.
but you'll
Sure.
eat it anyway. So I'm like,
Yep.
in society, we went from having really high standards on donuts, and now we're at a point where it's like, you want tricks in that donut? Bam, there you go. You want your grandma's ashes in that donut? Bam, there you go. You're like, holy shit, we can really ask for whatever we want now.
There are no rules to, and not only the donuts, but just on the culinary scene in general. It seems like, people are trying to continue to push the envelope, and there's just no, you take the basic concepts. Like, I went to culinary school. I learned the French techniques of doing, making a certain pie or a cake or a pastry in general, and then you just take those base concepts, and then again, there's no rules. You just continue to push the envelope as far as you possibly can. And it seems like, when someone else comes out with a great idea, you kind of riff off of what they're doing and then kind of take that and spin it the way that you like or the way that you see. And there's no boundaries anymore. It's a great time to be alive, to be honest.
What's the craziest combination you ever heard in a donut?
So we have heard, I guess the adding the meat idea to a donut, say like chicken. I think the chicken and waffles is kind of like a really popular concept right now. And I actually just saw a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial just the other day, and they got the guy that comes on talking about the Colonel with his little jingle, and then they're showing a glazed, it looks like a Krispy Kreme donut with chicken strips on top, and then that's probably the craziest concept I could say as far as a donut is concerned, is to add the meats to what used to be a traditionally sweet idea. And so we're actually working on some of those ideas, because we're pretty excited to announce that we're coming out with our very first food truck by the end of March, beginning of April. And so with that, we'll actually have the ability to start adding meats to some of our donuts. So we do have a couple that we've come out with for like a specific, like a birthday party that we did, or catering. We came up with one called the Jersey Devil. So that's got cream cheese filling. We use a ghost pepper jelly, and then we grill up some Jersey pork roll, put that on there. So, stuff like that, I think you'll start to see in the future. You'll see donuts coming out with, combinations of meats and or dessert type items. So I think that's a pretty something that's coming down in the near future.
Have you like when you customize your donuts or you make your orders, do you are you able to do them on the spot, or do you wish that someone would call ahead so you can actually craft out like a customized donut?
Yeah, so for the most part, again, we put out our displays when we're selling. So 99 times out of 100, the people will come up and just order what they see or what they think. So they refer to us as the expert. So they'll kind of go with our flavor combinations and profiles that we come up with. But every now and again, somebody will come up with, hey, could you put this and do this and try that? And sometimes something like that, frankly, turns into one of our best sellers. And that's kind of where the Holy Cannoli was born. We were actually at one of our very first events 2 years ago. And one of the other vendors had a bunch of leftover cannoli items. He had the cannoli shells. They were like smashed up in pieces in a box. And he had some leftover cannoli cream that he didn't sell. And so he's like, hey, I have an idea. Let's put this onto one of your donuts. And then ever since then, the Holy Cannoli was born. So,
well, that's how scientists create works of art, man. People are like, you're crazy putting all that in M80s and tying them together. It's like, but this mailbox is about to blow the fuck up, so it's going to be
yes, sir.
nice.
Yes, sir. That's some of the best things happen by accident. And I always look for new ideas. I mean, probably 85 or 90% of my thoughts may be flops, but when you come up with one that just sticks and the people enjoy it, there's no better feeling in the world, really.
I love just thinking of ideas and stuff. Like, what's some ideas that you've been kind of marinating on but really haven't figured it out yet?
So we're gonna again come off of that chicken and waffles spoof. So I think we're gonna go with. I always, as a kid, enjoyed on Sunday mornings having like pancakes with maple syrup and that kind of thing. It was something that I always enjoyed, and then we'd have some bacon to kind of go with that. So I think we're gonna come up with a maple glazed donut, and then kind of go with. We're thinking of a Korean fried chicken, and then kind of have like a Korean fried chicken and waffles on top of a donut. So that's one of the things I'm toying around with. I think that it's a little tough with the meat and sweet ideas. A lot of times, again, I'll come up with a menu item in my mind. It's like the greatest thing ever. And then I'll bring it to an event and I'll sell one. And so you put yourself out there, and you don't always, come up with a great idea, but you got to keep on putting yourself out there. So I don't know, maybe that General Tso's chicken idea you mentioned earlier, maybe something like that. We do have a huge Asian population in the area
There
where
you
we
go,
operate.
dude.
So
there you go.
You got to take that into account. You really do.
See, that's an okay one I tossed out, but I tossed out one at one point. Use pineapple, coconut, and then maybe like a berry or something. But like use like a coconut cream kind of glaze on top of the donut, kind of like dip it so it's like glazed over in coconut. Then you do like banana chunks either inside of it or just do slices up top. Then you put like a drizzle of cinnamon or maybe a little like dab of like syrup on top of it. Maybe add a couple blueberries or something, or maybe a kiwi. Make it a little tropical, like I don't know, like a pina colada donut.
So yeah, that's a great point. So we do some seasonal stuff. So one of our actually our best sellers, we call it the strawberry shorty. It's the riff on a strawberry shortcake. So we put a homemade cream cheese filling, and then we'll crush up some Walker's shortbread cookies. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They are amazing.
They are.
And then we'll add some whipped cream and then some sliced fresh strawberries and put those on top, and then we'll add some strawberry syrup, kind of drizzle that over the top of it. But in the spring and summer, people go gaga over the fresh fruit. We also do a riff on the southern vanilla pudding. It's a dessert that you've probably had it a million times. You take vanilla wafer cookies, vanilla pudding, whipped cream, throw it in the fridge, let it kind of solidify, add some fresh cut bananas, and away you go. And it's a delicious dessert. So we have one of those. It's called the Southern Belle. And so we always try to come up with, I've got probably 25 or 30 different
Damn.
ideas and concepts, but we don't make them all. Some of them, they're just in my mind, and I'm like, I don't know if people will go for this.
Dude, I want you to make this idea. All right. Buckle up.
I really, really like that one. We would call that one something like a pina colada, or, kind of.
Dude, no, I've already tossed out the name and it got shot down, but I think it's the best name. I said Chaos in the Caribbean, dude.
Oh, I like that, dude. I like that. I
Either
like that, actually.
Chaos in the Caribbean or Tropical Trailblaze. You got to pick one, but I'm telling you, the Chaos in the Caribbean, all I'm thinking is a monkey just smoked crack and he's throwing coconuts. Like, that's what
awesome.
you want.
That would go good. We actually, our new logo actually, so the name of our business is Doughnut Evolution. And so we think that, the donut has evolved. And so we put a cute little dinosaur biting a hole in a giant donut. And that's kind of our logo and our concept that we play off of. So I think Chaos in the Caribbean and then that big giant cute little dinosaur biting into that'd be a great little spin, I think.
That'd be awesome.
I think we'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay, all right, and then here's another one. You could shoot it down if you want. I really haven't came out with it yet because you were saying the vanilla wafer thing, and that's what I was going to end up using. So what I was going to say is you take marshmallow fluff. What you do is you can either insert it inside the donut or you can wrap it around, like make it like a spread all over the top and all around like the whole entire donut. So when you get it, you get that little bit of fluff on your hands. Maybe like refrigerate it so it's not so easily able to come off onto your fingertips. Do a drizzle of chocolate chips up top with a syrup glaze, or you can do it a different way by taking crushed vanilla wafers or waffle cone. I was thinking about waffle cone, and you crush it up into a bowl. You insert what do you call it? The marshmallow fluff inside the donut, kind of like a Boston cream is. Then you take a glaze or something, like a nice like sticky glaze, and put on top of the outside. You wrap, like basically roll it around in that waffle crisp crumbs, and then I don't know, drizzle it with whatever you want. You could do a chocolate syrup. You could add maybe like a nice like spread of like, I don't know. They have Reese's peanut butter whipped cream now.
Sure. Oh man, you're making my mouth water right now, dude. We do use fluff. Our best-selling donut, our signature donut, is actually our s'mores donut. So obviously, in that one, we put a chocolate filling. We use that marshmallow fluff that you were talking about. We do crush up graham cracker cookies, and then we put the miniature Hershey's chocolate bars on top of that, and then a chocolate drizzle. And then, so since we already have a bunch of those ingredients, we kind of came up with the fluffer nutter. So with that one, we take peanut butter, we fill the donut with that, and then put that same marshmallow topping on top of that. And so we're always trying to kind of push the envelope with what we already have, and then kind of spin off of those ideas and flavorings and try to come up with something new. So I kind of like your fluff and chocolate chip, and the waffle cone really has me intrigued because that's one I have not thought of yet. That's great. we're always looking for that crunch factor, and the waffle cone, I think.
That's the best part on a donut because you're not expecting
Yeah,
it. You like bite
yeah,
into a
man.
soft donut and you get a nice little crunch factor to it. It's like, waking up and, someone shit in your bed and it wasn't you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's a wonderful surprise, and we're all about that. So
And I was thinking, like, I mean, nobody ever uses a jam anymore. Like, you hear about the strawberry jam. So imagine using like a blueberry jam as a spread on top of a donut and then adding maybe, I don't know, like fresh blackberry, or even if you want, you can even incorporate some shaved coconut. Like, just shave a little bit of the actual coconut. You don't have to use a cream or anything. Just shave some coconut on top of it. Get the shredded coconut all over it with the blueberry on it. Those two would complement each other perfectly. People got to understand that some of the flavors, when you look at their profiles, see, I study everything down to a nutrition basis. I'm kind of a health nut. So I
sure,
know
sure.
what tastes good. When I walk into the grocery stores, I actually go to the aisles like cherry, all these types of things that people are like, those are super strong. I'm like, but they have something that pairs with them. Most of the time, it's something you would never think goes with it.
Sure. So that's one of the most difficult parts of creating a good menu item, is playing with a known flavor or something that you think is good on itself, but combining that with something that may be mind blowing, or something that, take for example, I worked on a Spanish food truck in the past, and they had these empanadas where they used to stuff them with guava and then a cream, like a cream cheese filling. And I had never had that combination before, but man, let me tell you what, after that thing would come out of the fryer piping hot, and those two kind of going together, it was just mind blowing.
If
So
you soak the dough in something, does that make the flavor stick to it, or how do you infuse like a powder or or like a liquid into the dough?
so I think the only way to realistically make that happen, at least currently, would be to put a glaze. So after you fry the donut up and you take it out of the oil, I think to dip it in some sort of a flavor infused glaze would probably be the best way to make that happen. Although I know with like popcorns and potato chips and other things, they do add powders to the mixes to kind of make those flavors. So that's a great idea. Something I have not thought of, to add, to impart flavor into the dough. We're a little bit limited on space, so when we go to a food truck event, we only have a set amount of space, so we would try to maximize the amount of combinations based upon the little amount of space that we have. So we try to use the same dough, and then we kind of use that as a base for all the other combinations. So I feel like if we added um, powders and flavors into each individual dough, it may kind of limit the possibilities that you would have while you're at the events. But once we have a brick and mortar type setup, which is our goal in the future, then the possibilities are limitless. So that's something to think about in the future.
I was thinking because I was like, has anybody ever completed like I've already done a s'mores donut with somebody. We use like fresh actual campfire roasted marshmallow and like a brown sugar coat. It works, but I'm thinking, who has invented a hot chocolate donut? Like, hear me out here. The
Sure.
the powdered, like, kind of, I guess, sugar or whatever sugar, I guess the hot chocolate mix. Use that and roll it around on top of that glaze and a light, like, or drizzle it even just so enough so you're not getting like it's all chalky in your throat. Or if you find a way to turn it into a glaze and spread it on top of a donut and then add some, fresh marshmallow on top. So like it brings back those memories of, remember when you were playing as a kid and you came in from the snow and your mom had a nice warm hot cup of chocolate in front of you, or you made it yourself.
Sure.
And
Yeah, we tried playing around in the early days. That was one of the first donuts I spent months trying to perfect, the chocolate cake donut. And I'll be honest with you, dude, to this day I still cannot make that donut. Typically they're made in a donut shop. They use a liquid batter, and then they dispense it like more like a cake mix, like a liquidy cake mix, and then they use a device called a hopper, and they dispense it into the oil. And
Yeah, that's a
so
cable package, isn't it? It's the
yeah,
hopper.
it pretty much is. You gotta have the hopper.
That fucking commercial, dude. It's HDL hopper. What do you say? It's the hopper.
You could tell you're from the East Coast if you remember that commercial. I think, yeah, it's been quite a while since that thing was on, but
That
yeah,
one and the freaking Geico one where he's like, I got you $1. And the girl goes to grab it and she pulls like, oh, you gotta be
oh, so
quicker than that.
close. Yeah. He had a fishing pole and he had the dollar on the end of the fishing pole. That was classic, man.
He
That
looked
was a
like
great one.
Ben Stiller's dad.
Right? He had those hip waders on and like a fisherman, the Gilligan hat, and
Yeah.
that's some good stuff, man. That's some good stuff.
You brought up a good point, though, a popcorn donut. Well, I think you just said popcorn, but I immediately went to donut. Like,
Yeah.
imagine taking a donut, maybe getting something, I don't know, the easiest thing that doesn't have a whole lot of taste to make it sticky, crushing up a bunch of popcorn and drizzling it all over the donut, and then adding caramel on top of it. Like, you want to talk about caramel corn, imagine that. But you could, instead of popcorn, regular popcorn, or using butter, you could use something like maybe even butter for the donut to stick. But
Sure.
adding a
Yeah.
caramel kettle corn type mix to a donut.
Ooh, kettle corn is pretty much to me is like crack. I mean,
It's the
that
only
stuff.
thing to eat out of fucking
Oh
the tub of whatever you get
Holy
from,
crap.
when you get that tub of popcorn for Christmas where it's like, I like the guy, but I'm not spending over $5. So you just get that, and then they only eat certain sections. No one eats the cheese one. It's all like you either eat like, dude, there you go right there. We talked about chip combinations. Take a donut and roll it in Smart Food popcorn, that white powder popcorn.
I actually do love that white cheddar
It's
smart
good.
popcorn stuff.
That
Right?
shit
It is really good.
sticks to your fingers though, so it'd be so easy to get it to stick.
Yeah, so we have to walk a line of coming up with creation. The naming is actually a lot of the fun part of coming up with these ideas, but we tend to gravitate towards a lot of the kids love our product, right? So I have some ideas sometimes, and then the naming. I had one. I thought of an idea of, coming up with something like popcorn, potato chips, pretzels, all those kind of like salty snack type foods, and then calling it like the white trash or something like that. Like
That won't work for the kids though.
No. So you got to be careful, kind of what you come up with, and then and the people they love the name. That's one of the aspects of the whole entire experience that they really enjoy. So
it's the reason why you picked out a cereal when you were a kid. If you're going to name that popcorn one, you just call it Movie Nights, because it's supposed to be like you're enjoying a movie.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm really good at creating ideas and very good at naming things, because my brain just is like one of those name generators where it's like you hit randomize and you get like Goldfish Unicorn 3 or something. My brain's just like, let me pull out every single word in my head and just throw it together and see if it creates a nice name.
That's awesome, man. And that's part of the creative process, man. No doubt about it.
We think our names are funny, but my kid's going to have a ridiculous name. He's going to be Beowulf Michelangelo Jr.
I like it, man. I like it.
But I mean, how difficult would you say it is to kind of keep your business going just with the amount of creation or ideas you have? Like, you're getting it started, but how did you even decide to branch off into the donut business? It's not super big just because of the factor of people like the same shit all the time, even though we like coming up with these crazy combinations. But a nice mom and pop or a nice starting entrepreneurial shop like yourself, one that's trying to get steam and get their name out there, for a lot of people, it's not them. I mean, for me, it is, because I'm the guy that looks for that extra something. I'm that guy that I'm not discrediting you at all, but when it comes to Krispy Kreme, when it comes to Dunkin' Donuts, these guys, like, everyone sees that and goes, oh, I know they're good. I know they'll have what I want. It's like, but take the fucking shot to try something new.
Yeah, man. That's one of the biggest struggles, to be honest with you, is, we in the beginning, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of everything to kind of put yourself out there and, put your thoughts into something concrete and something real. And so I remember in the early days in 2018, we started this in the end of the summer in 2018, and we would do some events where the only people coming by were the other vendors that were at the event. And it was very disheartening when people would walk by and they would comment on the price of the item, or they didn't kind of get what we were going for. They were asking, "Where's the jelly donut? Where's the glazed donut?" We're like, "No, these are way better than what you're asking, or just give us a chance." And
Hey,
sometimes you
hey, I'm from Boston. You got a Boston cream donut over there? You got a Boston cream? That's my Mark
ex,
Wahlberg
ex,
impression.
exactly, yeah. And people are, they're so used to, everybody, and I guess we're all guilty of it in a certain sense. We kind of have our own little routines and our own little ways of going about doing things. And so when something different or something unique or something odd comes out, you may be a little reluctant, unless you're someone like you or I who kind of are adventurous. I've always been an adventurous type of person, eating and traveling and trying new things, and not everyone is cut from that same cloth.
I wonder if someone really tried to actually take the time to really show people that there's another way when it comes to food, like just trying something new or extraordinary and stop going on to the same taste over and over again. But we've lived in a world for so long where people like what they like. I'm at fault for doing it myself too. But when I go out, if I'm going to spend money on something, I want to try something different than I've not really have known before. I'm used to eating the same meals every single day because I'm a big health nut. But when it comes to trying something exotic and actually spending money when I go out, I want a fucking experience. I want something that's gonna like be like a Kiss concert in my mouth or something. You really gotta
and
enjoy those moments.
and that's I think the beauty of our generation and the younger generations, and I have a daughter who's 13, and the generations coming down past that. I think that the food truck scene is giving people the opportunity to kind of try new, exotic, different things. It used to be where you would go to a restaurant and take the traditional Jersey diner, right? You go in there, you sit down, the menu is 27 pages long. There's 5,863 items in there. You get lost in how much stuff is in there. But on a food truck, you go there and it's, hey, I'm just going here for a donut, and it may be, there may be 27 different styles and types of donuts, but they're all just donuts. If you want to get a waffle, you may go to a waffle food truck and just try, all these different crazy combinations of just waffles. And so I think the
Yeah.
food truck scene is giving people that chance.
Well, it's weird with food trucks. I've talked to a few people that own food trucks and see the combinations really that come out of the area. It brings a whole cultural experience, like based on like Philadelphia, they got a few things. Like I know Steak and Subs run by my buddy Vinny down there. Like he has his cheesesteak shop. Like that's known. Philly's known for the fucking cheesesteaks, you know? And then you got Robert Dumont, exactly. He's like farm to food. So he goes to the farm, picks out the ingredients, and makes kind of healthy catering events for people doing his food truck. And then you got depending on your area, man, and the people that you're dealing with. But then you can also do the complete opposite, where you're from a completely different area. You come to a different location than where you're from, maybe on the other side of the country, and then start making food from where you're from, and people are getting introduced to it and trying it new. Exploring. I mean, a dangerous adventure would be trying to give healthy options or vegan options to Tennessee because they're all about barbecue. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes people want to try this thing. But I think the main spark of food trucks is only because people are such in a rush that going into a building now is a fucking pain in the ass. Like
Sure,
it's so easy to just pop up to a food truck and then grab a bite and then go off. We'll take a picture first and then eat it and then go off. But
sure.
I miss like remember going to like an old bakery or going into a gas station when I was little and smelling the fucking taquitos on the roaster, smelling the donuts when I walked in. Like an old bakery, like when you walk into the grocery aisle and you walk by the breads, you can fucking smell the raisin, you can smell all that.
Hmm.
That's what
Hmm.
makes a fucking bakery. Like when you smell that, like with the door open, you don't have to play any music to let people in. You don't have to put any flashy lights. You just got a door that's open. Sign says open. You got maybe the FDA, the health code says like an A or a B. We're not going to judge. Honestly, if it's a good donut, it could say F. I don't care if I get salmonella.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and that's one of, again, going back to how we kind of came up with our business idea. We try to take ideas and thoughts and flavors back to simpler times when we were kids. So exactly what you mentioned just a minute ago, when we were kids, we relied upon our smell, our sense of smell for a lot of different things when we were taking in, a new restaurant or a new bakery. And so then you remember those great times when you were a kid, and then all these years later, you still have the, memories, pictures, other things may fade away, but a smell or a scent from when you were a kid, it'll take you right back to that moment, man, right away. So if you smell something like cinnamon, like you go to a bagel shop and you smell a cinnamon raisin bagel coming out of the oven, it just takes you right back to like the very first fond memory you ever had of a cinnamon raisin bagel. So we do that. So part of our concept is we set up our display like, you go to a food truck and typically you're like looking up into the window and you wait 5 minutes and then they kind of hand out your item out the window and you're down on the ground. So we really like to be more intimate with our customers. So we set up on the ground level in our tents and even with our food truck. And the customers that come and buy and interact with us, they get to watch the donuts being made. Then they actually watch us assemble their donut. It's more of an intimate experience for us and for them.
Like
And
the
so
ice
that's
cream
kind of,
man that used to have the little
yeah,
the hot dog cart guy that used to have it right there, and he used to be standing at eye level with you, so he wasn't looking up at you, he wasn't looking down at you, he was just right there with you, making it more relatable for the people. That's why people could just walk up and talk to him. Even trying to go to a carnival you brought up earlier, like the funnel cakes. That's a fucking pain because you're looking at the guy like, can I get a funnel cake? And you're staring up at him and he's
yep.
judging you like, I know you're gonna only eat half of this, and then you're gonna throw it in the fridge, and then it's gonna go to fucking waste.
Yep, yep. And that's the balance that we have to kind of work within. So in order to be taken a little more seriously, we have to go from the tent, the pop-up tent, to a food truck, and then eventually, a brick and mortar. But there's like a hierarchy amongst the food vendors. So they kind of look down upon you. The food truckers look at a guy in a tent like you know, you're a subpar, you're less than in the hierarchy, you're less than what they are. So in one sense, it may be difficult for you to get access to some of the more upscale businesses or some of the places where they have a nicer food truck event. So that's kind of like a fine line that we're trying to walk between going or growing from our food tent to our food truck. It's one of those things we're trying to find the happy medium to kind of make everybody happy.
Well, it seems like the major thing that's going on nowadays where kids are wanting that nostalgia, or kids are wanting that like old school classic relatable experience is because they got it taken away from them at a very young age as well. Mostly with the way the world works now, you're exposed to so much at a young age. You're basically, your parents are working all the time. It's not like back in the old days where everybody had a family meal. That doesn't really happen so much anymore. So all these kids, millennials like myself, that really want to kind of chase that nostalgia feel, we're looking for something that might have been part of our childhood where we take a bite into it and we're wearing a big snow jacket or something with the hot chocolate donut. We're doing
Yep,
something like,
yep.
you know it's weird because the way I look at like things, when you want to consider adding chips to a donut, you basically consider it to be a powder or something that you can roll it in like a crumb based. That's the best way to put on a chip. So if you did that with like pretzels, and then let's say you incorporated like marshmallow on top of it and added a little bit of red Twizzlers. That's a classic snack that kids used to love back in the day. I mean, it just taking a bite into it. It's like, oh, this is the time I went to the movies and just got a bunch of stuff and added it together, and everyone thought it was going to be disgusting, but it was so good. Like you can do so much, even if I don't know how, but if you could make the donut like out of a waffle or make it like the waffle consistency with that.
Dude, it's crazy that you mentioned that because and my wife. So sometimes I'll come home from an event. We just had one this past weekend, and frankly, it was a bit of a flop. We did an event up in Brooklyn, New York, and we didn't do anywhere near as well as we thought we were going to do. So we come back home, and the good part is when it doesn't go as planned, you have a bunch of leftover items, right? So my wife, being the economically sound woman that she takes the items that we have and she'll start playing around. She took our donut dough and started making everything bagel waffles with the donut dough. So she fires up the waffle, puts a bunch of everything seasoning on the donut dough, puts them on the waffle, and away you go. And then we're having breakfast, and here's this everything waffle. It's phenomenal. I
They
mean,
said
it's
reduce, reuse, recycle. She turned the game on that one.
amen, brother, amen.
That's what I like, is when we don't throw all the ingredients away, we use it for something different.
She's from the Philippines, so in a lot of the other cultures, people don't throw things away the way we will use every last ounce of something. Do not waste. And so we're big on trying to figure out another way, another purpose, another use for these items. And so as part of the food truck, we're trying to expand our menu. And so we're trying to think of some ideas to, again, stick with the donut theme. And so having these donut waffle sandwiches is what I'm thinking. I came up with the idea with Maria, my wife. I said, hey, what if we did a pork roll, egg and cheese on an everything waffle?
That's what I was thinking, dude. If you can make a donut with like a waffle like base to it, then you add like a nice egg on top of it, maybe even turn it into a waffle sandwich or a donut waffle sandwich. You can even make it a runny egg too if they're gonna sit and eat it. But if it's gonna be like one of those things like a donut where you just take it and kind of walk with it and eat it, you can do it scrambled. Make like
Sure.
a breakfast sandwich, drizzle a little bit of maple syrup on top of it, add a dash of cinnamon. Dude,
Sure.
you're off to the races, my friend.
And I actually just, I had some spare time on my hands. The winter time, we don't really do a lot of events, and so it's kind of slow. And so in between, this idea and that idea, I came up with a thought of why not make an ice cream cone out of a donut instead of making, baked in the oven. Take our donut dough, wrap it around a metal item, and then plop that in the fryer like you would a cannoli shell, for example, and then take it out. You'll have an ice cream cone shaped device made out of donut, and then fill it like we would our other donuts, and then you can kind of have a walking donut cone.
Sounds like
So
it's a lot better than Elon Musk's super truck.
his might go a lot faster, but ours are a lot more delicious, I'll tell you.
Yours works faster in the colon. That's all that's needed.
Amen. So yeah, I mean, you got to constantly try to push the envelope and come up with new ideas. Again, a lot of them, they sound crazy to most people, but some of the times these things just do work out. So um, it's sometimes my daughter gets a little discouraged when we're working, we're at events and we hand out samples, and 9 people out of 10 just keep on walking, or they just come by and get the sample and keep on moving. And I try to teach her, it's just you're one more no closer to a yes. So you come up with something, it doesn't work, you know what? Don't get discouraged, don't get disappointed, just keep on coming up with new ideas. So that's how we roll, and that's how we keep going.
Do you typically try and go to other places and experience more donuts to see if you can expand your profile, maybe learn a little bit, see if the idea that you have is maybe created in a different way?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest joys that I have in life is actually traveling. So my wife and I were avid hikers. We do national parks is kind of our thing. So whenever we travel, we usually try to take 2 trips a year minimum, and we go hiking. And so whenever we go to a new city or a new state or a new country, even, we try to eat. And I always try to keep my eye out for new ideas. And like you said earlier in our conversation about when you go somewhere and you try something different, kind of think about what you've just tried, and then try to bring it back home and either copy it exactly or just spin it off into something that may work for your concept or your business. And so we're always on the lookout for new menu ideas. This may sound weird, but I was in the bathroom the other day at my day job. Brings me to a lot of pharmaceutical companies, and in the restroom, and the little, I don't know what you call it, the urinal cake, I guess it's called. It smelled like orange creamsicle. I'm like, oh my
Dude, I was thinking before you joined the podcast about a freaking creamsicle, or no, it was a sherbet or something type of
God. Yes. Yes.
like a nice donut that made with sherbet. But I was like, how would you make that even happen? I was like, I
Dude, do you
don't even
remember
know.
we used to get those as kids? There would be those orange, I think they're called push-up pops or whatever,
Yes, that's exactly what I
right?
was thinking of too. The sherbet
Yes.
popsicles, or the orange
Yes. Yes.
creamsicles you used to get.
Absolutely. So we're gonna on the food truck, we will have the ability. We'll have a freezer on there, so we're thinking about adding some ice creams, maybe some basic vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, but knowing myself, it'll probably turn into like avocado, all kinds of other crazy
Oh God, it's
concepts
like
of ice creams, right?
pistachio ice cream. I never
Yeah,
look. I don't.
dude, that was my favorite. That was
Really
my favorite growing up, dude.
fucking
We went out like
pistachio.
twice a year. I was one of 7 kids, so we went out like twice a year for like out to dinner, and it was this Chinese restaurant that we would go to. I know that they don't even have those anymore as far as restaurants go, but the end of the meal, they would bring out this tiny little dish with a little scoop of pistachio ice cream and with a little fortune cookie on top. Dude,
That's
I
a fucking
loved.
trick, dude. That's a
Holy shit,
trick.
man!
It could have been wasabi. You didn't even know. You would have bit
It might have been
into it
like
anyway.
sweetened wasabi with like MSG. Yeah, yeah. Who knows what was in it? But dude, to this day, I still love pistachio ice cream. It's insane. It's got to be green though. It's got to be the green one.
My taste changed. I think I only went to one place at one time to get ice cream out, but usually it was like buying the store ice cream. I mean, growing up when I was a kid, it was chocolate everything. Then
Oh, I see.
I like we got the 3 tub ones, the ones that had the ice cream split, like the middle was chocolate, the right was vanilla, and the left was like rainbow. My brother would
Yeah,
kill the rainbow or vanilla, and I'd just go for the chocolate. And then I remember actually having vanilla, and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. And you drizzle some chocolate syrup on it. This is when I noticed my dad was a bit of a psychopath because he was like, take your ice cream when it's in the bowl, instead of just eating it like that, just mash it up and make it into like a milkshake. There you go. And I was like, whoa, like you changed the game, bro. And he's like, I know, right?
yep,
But my
yep.
grandfather, we went to a store one time, an ice creamery, and it was Cold Stone or something. We're looking at all the flavors like Rocky Road, my grandmom got. My grandfather was like, let me get vanilla. And then some woman beside us was like looking, she's like, let me try the chocolate. Let me try the double chocolate. Let me try the triple chocolate. I'm like, what's the fucking difference? It's more chocolate. And I was like 15, and my grandpa turned around. He's like, look, I was thinking the same thing, but you're 15, and I'm going to get shit for that. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to say, man. She was taking a very long time.
That's crazy, man.
It's those moments though, like when like Friendly's ice cream or something with like chocolate chip cookie dough in it. I thought about maybe adding chocolate chip cookie dough to a fucking donut. Honestly, it's just at this point, it's like let's just throw a bunch of stuff together and see what works. Because I mean, I was not a super big fan of donuts. I ended up stopping eating them when I was like 14 years old. I know what's still good though, but my buddy owns the Fractured Prune here in Ocean City, Maryland.
Oh yeah,
So
yep.
yeah, he owns that place, and his house is filled with donuts. And I'm over there like, "What's for breakfast?" He's like, "Donuts, dude. We own a donut shop." So pull out, he pull out all these crazy combinations of fucking donuts you've never seen before. And I'm like looking at him. I'm like, "Dude, I don't even eat donuts." He goes, "Then you're starving, dude." And I'm like, "Oh shit! Like I gotta ride down to McDonald's and grab me an egg McMuffin."
Yeah, you gotta like I said before, we have our, my wife calls it the spoils of victory. It's whatever's left over from the event, and we're not gonna waste that stuff. So we try to repurpose it into, something crazy. And sometimes my daughter, like, going back to the bagels again, she comes up with some ideas, and I'm like, that sounds awful. And then she's like, just try it. So she'll come up with something like a cinnamon raisin bagel, and then she'll get tuna fish and like lettuce and tomato and all that stuff and put it on there. And I'm like, that just sounds disgusting. She said, just try some. I take a bite of it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't
Look,
believe how good that is.
I,
It's
I I learned from a young point when I went to Olive Garden that if you mix their breadsticks with the vanilla ice cream, the garlic and the vanilla complement each other so well.
yep, it's amazing. You got to try it. You got to
if you
try it.
if you have Snapchat, there's a thing called late night eats. There are people that take hot Cheetos and they put them on a pickle. They have people that do chocolate in a pickle. They have people that do the weirdest shit I have ever seen before. And I have a buddy who's a Philadelphia food reviewer, and I was looking at stuff. I was like, a lot of this stuff seems like something a 15-year-old would eat. And I ended up talking to him. He's like 35 years old, and I'm like, dude, like mostly when you get older, people slow down when it comes to like their health and what they're eating. But it was interesting because he's got a lot of good reviews on there too. And it's like I said, the world's changing, it's completely different. And to stay with the times, you got to also jump in with it.
And that's what, if anyone who studies, as you get older, right? I'm not a spring chicken, but as you get older, you start seeing things, they come back again, the styles from, 20 or 30 years ago, the haircuts, the, like the dessert type of items that people enjoy. They all do. Let's face it, it's hard to come up with new revolutionary ideas. So the same shit that you had from 30 years ago will come back again in another form, and then people think it's revolutionary, but there really is a limited or a finite amount of ideas out there. And so what we strive to do is just take the basic, something everyone knows, like a donut, and then just try to make it as different as possible. And so you stay in the same genre of donuts, but
What's 3 things that you wish would come back? So that's a tough
oh
question.
God,
I can name 3 right now, or at least 2.
that,
Fucking moon shoes. I would love moon shoes. 2, I would have to say old cartoons like Johnny Bravo, and then drive-in movies.
oh, I would agree with that one.
Drive-in movies.
I've never been to a drive-in theater, dude.
Neither
Never
have
been to
I,
one.
man, and I know it's got to be an amazing experience.
I'm thinking back in my day, those starter jackets were all the rage, where people would wear, the New York Giants jackets and those funky, there was those like kind of like sweatpants, but not really. And they had, every football team had their own, but they were like zebra striped or like Bengal striped or
Yeah,
those
yeah.
crazy things. Zubaz, I think they were called, or those are pretty big. I'm a big video here in New Jersey at Red Bank. It's called Yestercades, and so we like the old video games. So if those came back, I'd be perfectly okay with that.
Or a nice movie rental like fucking Blockbuster.
Blockbuster, right? Like I've got Netflix, we've got Hulu, we've got this and that, and it seems like they play the same garbage over and over and over again. There's never anything on.
Kids will never know what it's like to, when you order takeout, to just order from one place, because for me as a kid, you were stuck to that fucking menu. There was no ordering from Domino's, then the guys picking up also McDonald's. Uber Eats fucked them. But with Blockbuster, kids will never know that awkwardness to walk up. Can I rent this video game? Are you above the age of 18? No. $20.
I think, yeah, I think that's one of the, I mean, obviously with the technological advancements and all the, the opportunities that kids have at, basically they've got a supercomputer in their hands and at all times. And when we were kids, we were eating dirt and setting ants on fire with magnifying glasses. But nowadays, the options are limitless. I mean, the kids really are, they have an information overload. They've got choices galore. I mean, it's really an amazing time to be alive. But there's also like a lot of the things that we grew up having that the generations now and the ones that are coming up behind us will never have. So I guess it's a fine line between having excess and then missing out on things that when we were kids maybe we took for granted, but these guys will never ever have, unfortunately. So
Bro, you want to know something that'll make the kids freak out if you make it and turn it into a donut?
what's that?
Add Nutella as like an all over kind of glaze to a donut. Then you take crushed up chocolate Oreo, drizzle up on top, and add gummy worms to it. Fucking kids
Oh,
would lose
so we
their
do
shit.
we do actually have one of our best sellers. We call it the Nutty Nutella. It's got toasted hazelnuts. It's got chocolate filling, and then we do put Nutella on it. And then we actually toyed around with the idea of calling it the One-Eyed Cyclops, which is a little redundant, but we put a Ferrero Rocher cookie on top, and so it's kind of looking up at you as a cyclops. And so we're trying to come up with some ideas, taking again what we have already, so Nutella and chocolate. The gummy worms may be a great idea. Maybe kind of ground up the Oreos and make them look like dirt, and then kind of have like the worm coming out of it, like a, I don't know, a dirt donut or something like that. So that's a really good idea, actually.
It's a
So
must.
yeah, we're constantly trying to push the envelope and kind of. And it's only a nuance thing. You don't need to get crazy. Like I was looking through the on the side of the fluff package a couple months back, and saw on there, try a fluffer nutter. I'm like, fluffer nutter. I've got the peanut butter here. I've already got the fluff here. Why not put them together? And we put a peanut butter cookie on it. Those I forget what they're called, the nutter Nutter butters.
Nutter butters.
So we ground them up and put them on there. Yeah. They're like oval shaped peanut butter cookies. We put them on there too. And sometimes it's something simple as just like combining two things that you already know or you already have like in your fridge. You ever watch like a TV show called Chopped on the Food Network? It's all about taking what you have in front of you and then trying to make it as delicious as possible. So sometimes it's as simple as that.
That's how you truly tell a master chef, or at least someone with at least creativity, is when they can truly take something out of nothing and turn it into something.
Absolutely. And then, growing up, as we didn't come from a wealthy upbringing. So, we came home from school. If my mom was out working, as many days she did, and my dad, we would kind of be on our own to find something to eat. So we would open the cupboards up and grab whatever was in there. And one of the things we came up with was tuna fish with macaroni and cheese and peas. We always had all that in the cupboard, so we mixed that all together, and that was one of the best things I ever had when I was a kid. So
look,
really
you're
have to,
struggling
just
when you reach for what is it, wheat germ in your closet. I didn't know what the fuck that was, but it was the only thing in there, and I took a giant spoonful of that. And let me tell you something, you're okay with not eating.
That's it, man. Sometimes you're desperate though. When you're starving and you're desperate, you'll do desperate things. So
Desperate times come for desperate measures, but desperate meanings have desperate donuts. You like that? I didn't.
I do like that. I do like that. Nice one, man. Nice one.
Well, David, I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast. I know it was like a drop of the hat type thing, but I really want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content, your page, your works, and hopefully this food truck that's coming out, because I'll be that customer.
Awesome, Robbie. I appreciate that. So, yeah, our tagline is we create handcrafted, hot and fresh, made-to-order donuts. So we do events all over the New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia metro areas. We do weddings, birthdays, caterings, corporate events, but the bulk of the time you'll find us at food truck events. So if you'll follow us on Instagram or Facebook, our handle is at Doughnut Evolution. And we spell that like you would dough, DOUGHNUT, evolution, EVOLUTION. So at Doughnut Evolution. We also launched our website about a month ago. That's www.doughutevolution.com. You'll see our logo. It's a giant, cute little dinosaur taking a bite out of a big donut, a pink frosted donut with sprinkles. It kind of resembles like the Homer Simpson type pink glazed donut. So that's our logo, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you today. And if anybody wants to know anything about us, just check us out on social media. We'd really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.